Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's got Star Trek, Episode 7. The Discovery Pilots Part 2, Context is for Kings.
You know who that is? That's Michael Burnham.
The mutineer.
In the flesh.
8,000 dead in the first 2 days of war. 8,186.
Welcome to Discovery. I'm Captain Gabriel Walker.
Captain, what am I doing on this ship?
I have something on deck that requires every trained mind available.
What the hell is going on this ship? Burnham is viewed by many as the cause of our conflict. This does nothing for morale.
My ship, my way.
You're a valuable asset, but you are dangerous.
Shields up!
Firing main phasers.
You seek to destroy the Klingon Empire.
But glory must be earned through sacrifice.
Have you ever bothered to look out of your spaceships at the little guys below?
Go!
There's a lot more of us down there than there are you up here. I'm sick and tired of getting caught in your crossfire.
I think about what happened all the time. And I'm hurt. But there's hope.
We must win the war. But that's just the beginning. Imagine the possibilities.
You got all your notes loaded up?
I have a few notes. Not some of them are just kind of funny observations,
All right. Try not to bang on the table.
but not that funny.
Oh, did that fuck with the recording last time?
I don't know. I haven't heard that one yet.
Oh.
You're definitely hearing through the headphones.
Oh, could you?
Yeah, and I'm always hearing people like complain about that on podcasts. We're like, oh, the guy was always banging on the table.
There's a podcast where two women talk about King of the Hill.
Oh, I want to hear that.
Yeah,
I
it's
do
called
too.
like I saw it in a news article, different podcasts. It's called like Revisiting King of the Hill. That's I think
That's a fairly unoriginal.
Yeah.
I hope that was the name of the article and not the podcast.
it looked like it was the name of the podcast.
It might have been because the podcast should be something clever, like.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
That podcast ain't right.
No, you're absolutely correct. It's called Ho Yeah.
Oh yeah!
But that's
yeah.
the subtitle is Revisiting.
Oh yeah!
Yeah, no, it's called
Ho Yeah.
It's called Ho Yeah.
That works.
I'm very sorry.
That one works.
Are we?
Yeah, that's good.
Strickland podcast.
Are we porn courting?
Yeah, we're recording. So if you want to talk about stuff, put on your podcast
We're going
voice.
to talk about helical trauma.
I have that. Yeah, I have that note as well.
What about you? Want to talk about how spores are the progenitors of panspermia? That's another one. What were you talking? Helical trauma.
Helical trauma.
That's topical because there's that whole like helical drive that that Google's been talking about. Not Google, but you know what I'm saying. It's been all over the internet news.
Well, when they go to the
internet
Glen.
news?
Well, I was going to say there's a helical drive. I think that is what it's called or something. Where like they keep talking about like this is real life.
Does it use a helicopter?
Faster than light travel.
It's something about like how when things go the speed of light, they gain mass or something, and so some NASA scientist or someone.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, everyone was like, "This isn't going to work." And,
yeah, well, so it's a conservation of momentum type thing.
Yes.
But the idea,
conservation of energy in general or something.
The idea behind that drive is that I believe it was you take I think it's you use photons and
it like goes back and forth.
Yeah,
and
maybe
it's
was
supposed
it
to gain.
Maybe it was neutrinos,
and I think it's supposed to gain mass as it goes in one direction.
Yes,
and then
that's theoretically what can be converted into the thrust because as it's gaining mass, but then it cycles back and reduces in mass.
Right, but it doesn't. It's bullshit.
It's not. It's a theoretical thing. So
I think they've decided. I think the general consensus now is that it doesn't work.
No, I don't think it would be a practical. I don't think the thing would move. I think you could but I do think you could get it to work in the sense that like I think the actual neutrinos or whatever, you could get them to change mass in theory, but I do believe that it wouldn't result in something moving forward in space.
Well,
it
right.
would just be a spiral of neutrinos gaining and losing mass,
Right.
which would be neat. But.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the idea behind it, that it's based on something real, but the result is conservation problems.
All the theoretical stuff is always fun because there can be practical stuff that comes out of it just from like trying, to get in that direction.
Yeah,
think about it.
why not?
But it
not?
should be taken with hefty grains of spores.
Or
The helical trauma is what the dude said. The
astromitosis,
mycologist or whatever.
stamets, which
He calls-
sounds like spermy stamens, and stamens.
Yeah.
Stamens are plant dicks.
He's also named after an
That's
actual
right.
mycologist, a very famous mycologist who's still alive. He's one of the preeminent mycologists.
It's funny that they have astromycology. But anyway, he said helical trauma, like the people that were all fucked up and cut up on the ship. When they went to the Glen. Is that what it's called? The Glen?
The Glen.
Yeah, the Glen, and it was like his partner.
Yeah, that his friend was on that ship.
And
No.
what was funny about that?
He also experienced helical trauma.
And
Perhaps.
it was funny because Stamets, he was generally kind of fussy, right? That whole episode. But like when he saw like that horrifying shit, he was just like, "Oh shucks, man, that sucks."
Yeah.
Like he was like,
"That's fucked up."
He was like, "Oh man," and then he's like, "Oh, dom dom." Sorry, that was
What happened, dude?
It's okay. Don't worry. It's all good.
Oh man, okay,
It's all good. He's back. He's back
Teleprompter
in business.
failure.
Anyway, we should start
Yeah.
at the beginning. Episode
Word.
7 or something of It's Got Star Trek. This is the part 2 of the Discovery situation, the Star Trek Discovery. And I guess just by way of intro, 3rd episode of the series. As I said in the last episode, I think possibly you could just not even bother watching the other 2.
yeah, I agree.
Probably if I were suggesting this series to other people, if they were super Star Trek people, I would say definitely watch the first 2 episodes, but maybe if they were a little on the fence or something, I'd say just start at episode 3 because it's like the second pilot.
The only thing that you could argue really to see the first one is, and which falls apart, which I was talking about last episode, we were talking about, and I don't know how much people agreed with me on this, but the idea that the only thing that the first 2 episodes point out is this idea that everyone's pissed off at Burnham for starting this Klingon war, which I was saying, like, she never started the Klingon war. She didn't do it in the first place. She was trying to prevent what happened anyway.
She made mistakes, but they weren't, it's not like...
Yeah, she made mistakes. She was a fucking mutineer or whatever, but like, and she neck pinched her captain, but...
And didn't do it well.
Half-assed it. Didn't take, right?
Human style.
But like, yeah, so... She was saying, look, we can't play diplomat with these Klingons or else they'll fuck us up. Let's shoot first. And then, like, they didn't follow her plan and the Klingons shot because they played diplomat because they said, we come in peace or whatever, which Burnham didn't say. But Captain Georgiou said, so they followed through with their plan anyway. The whole war started, blah, blah, blah. It just so happened that Burnham was fucking mutinied, and that's what everyone remembers, and for some reason falsely associates that. It was fucked up for sure, but they falsely associated it with starting the war. In any case, that's the only important thing I think that you really need to know about, but it was presented in a goofy way anyways, and they never really talk about that.
And what I really like about this episode is it starts out with this person sitting in chains on a prison ship, and if you hadn't seen the first 2 episodes, you'd say, wait, what's going on here?
Right.
Who is this person? Why is the camera zooming in? Is this the main character? Why is she in handcuffs? What's her deal? And then the people, as much as I've complained about the exposition in other episodes, in this episode, I thought it was great because you have those people. By the way, all those other actors on the little shuttle pod are Expanse actors. They're like side characters on the Expanse because it's all filmed in Toronto, I guess. But
the Expanses?
I think it might be. Maybe it's Vancouver, but certainly they're Canadian actors. But the point is that you see this main character, you see these other people who are talking, but in an organic way, they slowly arrive at the introduction of Michael Burnham, what they claim she did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then of course the story continues to be interesting because it's all this interesting stuff starts to happen.
Yeah, right. So for example, when the guy's like, "Oh, Starfleet, what'd you do? Come late to a post or whatever?" And then they find it's like, "No, she's a mutineer," and you're like, "Oh, fuck!" If that was like the first you heard of it, that would be pretty like, "Oh, I see what's going on."
And you find out more over time as you hear what happened, and she talks about stuff or whatever.
The first 2 episodes were really about building up motivation that mostly didn't happen. I guess like why the Klingons did it in the first place was to unite the Klingon Empire, which was sort of vaguely motivated, but it's I guess good enough, really. But
yeah. But otherwise, I think the opening was good. The shuttle pod was good.
There was that one prisoner, right, who she was all like, a bunch of people died.
Like my cousin was on that ship. Right. It's like, well, what did this person do to go to fucking Starfleet prison? Like, who was she to scold like that?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too. It's like she's getting all bitchy, right, about it, and it's like, oh, you killed my cousin. It's like, what? Anyways, apparently 8,186 people died.
Yeah, she knew how many people died.
She knew how many.
I will say, I find this whole like the first Starfleet mutineer thing that's dumb. I think that's like why would you
like
say why not just
in
say
a
she's
whole
mutineer?
Century like they.
I just don't believe it, especially since Starfleet theoretically is getting better over time. Maybe I guess that's debatable, but you'd think like early on when their ship's breaking down and can only go warp 4,
Can't
right?
even go warp 5.
Can't even go. The Vulcans held it back. They've held back warp 5 all this time.
Yeah, I was watching Terra Nova. That's a great episode of Enterprise. I think it's the 5th episode, fourth or 5th.
Is that when does Earth blow up or something?
No, that's where they go an early, like 70 or 100 years before they had when they had like early warp. They went to a star that was 20 light years away, and it took a 9-year trip to get there. And they set up a colony, and then the colony lived there for a while and then went dark. And so the Enterprise, now that they can get out there, they encounter them. It was a really interesting story, really like well done. It's one thing, watching Enterprise while also, going back and forth watching Voyager. Voyager too, but Discovery is you miss in Discovery, you miss those episodic things that can tell like a self-contained but still very interesting and thematically relevant story to the overall tale. And Discovery, because it's serialized and because it's shorter seasons, they don't have the flexibility to do that. You get great production value, you get great acting and stuff like that, but you miss a little of that.
Do you think this
fun story?
Do you think this is more serialized or the same as like the later seasons of DS9?
More so. I think
so,
more so.
yeah.
Because even on those later seasons, they would have even season 7 of Deep Space Nine had like the Ezri Dax going to her planet and dealing with her mom, and O'Brien was with her, and her brother was into some shady mafia stuff. Totally irrelevant. Only tangential stuff in that episode related to other story. It was a story about the character of Ezri Dax. A brand new character they were introducing, basically.
That actress was in The Cube.
Yes, she was. Nicole DeBoer.
The Cube. Wait, is that movie where they're stuck inside that maze cube?
Yeah.
It's all prime numbers.
That's that fucked up movie.
Fucked.
She was in that movie?
She was in that movie.
Yeah, totally.
And they made like 3 of those movies, right?
Yeah.
And then they made like a prequel one.
I saw the first one.
I didn't see the other one, so I don't know.
First one was cool.
Yeah, they were in that maze cube that was all moving around, and they didn't know it, and there's some fucked up shit happened. And yeah, that same director made or something or creator or whatever.
He did The Cell.
Did he do The Cell?
I don't know. What did he do?
There was this movie that like nobody ever saw. I guess I don't know. I just happened to see it because it was like from the director of a Cube or whatever. It's called Nothing, and it was with at least
different guy.
And it was at least one of the same actors. Or maybe it was 2 of the same actors. I don't know. But it was basically about these 2 losers who the whole world was getting them down, and they started like wanting everything to go away, and slowly they were with their mind, everything started going away, and it wasn't very uplifting, but it was like
mind.
I wouldn't even call it a dark comedy. It was just kind of a depressing sort of.
Was it anything like Star Trek?
I guess that's a good question.
It was a little bit like Star Trek.
So the ship was exploding and Discovery picked them up. So why was the ship exploding? Because of a storm? Was that a pilot flying out the window?
Yeah, because the pilot went out there to work on the ship, and then like her tether got messed up.
And so how...
I think it's another style over
she went flying.
Thing.
Yeah, so like how did Discovery like... Lorca was looking for him for
Lorca.
Like it, yeah.
I think this is again where where Discovery has some weaknesses amongst its many strengths is that these little things that you wouldn't have happen in like TNG or Deep Space Nine happen here, where they don't quite fill in those gaps, because we learn later Lorca, apparently, my understanding was that he actually initiated the transfer of Burnham. Like, right. Because she said, I got no notice that I was going to be transferring facilities, and all of a sudden I'm on a shuttle.
And she also said, and we changed courses halfway through. I want to know how they knew that she knew that they changed courses, but whatever. I guess that's not really
at the stars or something.
But, yeah, right.
but then it's
that's not important.
Did Lorca engineer? Did he engineer the? Right. The pilot having to
exactly
that doesn't make it like I don't know.
Are those things that like attack the ship?
Right. Yeah. The shield feeders or
species like a bunch of numbers she rattled off. Like that's species number blah 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 blah.
Space lice.
Space lice.
Kind of space lice.
Yeah, and that was the thing. That was the thing. All right. Right. That was the thing. It's like, okay, you sort of manufactured this way of picking up. Yeah. Did you also happen to manufacture? Yeah, a pilot dying and all this other.
It's a loose thread,
right? So
probably because if the plan had been gone according to plan, it would be less exciting to watch. It would just be a shuttle pod and flying onto the Discovery.
And they're all like, "Oh fuck!" And then all of a sudden, like, there's the Discovery, and it sucks them up, and then you see the Discovery, and it says like Discovery on top, and it's all like boom, 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 boom.
That's what happened in Star Wars, though, right? Didn't they just suck them up?
Yeah, they just. Well, I mean, Star Wars is a good. You know,
Spaceballs.
Yeah, Spaceballs. This is an unlisted wall.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me too much, and that kind of stuff has happened before. It is a little bit weak in the sense that it feels like rushed writing, because I think you could have accomplished some similar things a different way. And I think what they're doing is they're once you get introduced to Lorca, who we should talk about, but you get introduced to him, and at the end you definitely get the vibe like he's always had the whole episode. He has the vibe of being sort of intense and a little different, and then like at the end you're like, oh, this dude's up to some shady shit. I suppose you're supposed to retroactively fill in that he's willing to kill people and whatever, but not really. Yeah. I mean, you don't get the idea that he's like killing humans left and right. He's got some weird freaky shit going on.
Yeah, because I mean, well, there's that line between sort of like unanswered questions or questions that were supposed to sort of implied answers or answered later, or when you're like, oh, is that I wonder what's happening there, or is it like, oh, they just fucked up and aren't planning to do anything with that, right? Is it like tricky writing or is it bad writing?
I think a good example that was used prominently on Deep Space Nine, although I think it was referenced in a few other things, but the Orion Syndicate. So they would often mention the Orion Syndicate, and you never saw the Orion Syndicate. And there was one episode of Deep Space Nine where you interact with some tertiary members who are associated with the Orion Syndicate, but it makes for a really great, it gives you that literary device that you can say, oh, the Orion Syndicate's doing some shadiness, or, oh, don't go there because of the Orion Syndicate, or I had to find some information and I had a contact in the Orion Syndicate who was able to get me the isolinear rod that had the plans or whatever. So that's an example of you say something that you can assume all the rest. The viewer can fill it with their imagination because it doesn't matter. All you need to know is Orion Syndicate.
Right.
Whereas here it's just, okay, there's the pilot and space lice with electrical powers and what exactly has happened here.
Yeah, because they didn't really give you any reason to think that Lorca would have killed that pilot on purpose, right? So all you're left is thinking is like, oh, well, I guess they just didn't think about that.
Just a little careless.
Yeah. But then it does lead up to what I think is a pretty awesome shot of the ship. I really like the Discovery. I think some people were like, don't like it, and like, I'm curious what your guys' opinions are, but I think it looks kind of cool. Like, it's kind of like a cool looking thing.
It's a cool looking ship, yeah.
So the Discovery and the Glenn are basically the same ship, right?
Yes.
That's the deal. And all the other ships don't have that weird sort of separation of an inner disk and an outer disk, because they have like corridors that separate the inner and the outer.
Right.
I think it's cool. I like the way it looks. I like how the sort of the tails, the two tails, whatever you call the engines,
the nacelles.
The cells. There you go. Yeah, the nacelles. I like how they're all long and weird.
I bet you do.
Yeah, long and weird. Just how I like it. in my mouth.
Just like this podcast.
Yeah, long and weird. So yeah, no, I think all the ships look really cool in Discovery, even though, as we discussed before, maybe the Klingon ships don't really look enough like Klingon ships. If you were going to sort of divorce it from the whole rest of the, and I guess that's not fair to say, oh, well, if you just pretend it's not Star Trek, that you can't do that. But they just look cool regardless.
I agree. I think the production designs
and they still look like Federation ships. They still have Federation-y looking ships.
Yeah, the Federation ones. Yeah, that's the thing, is they do a good job right there.
And I also think they do further on in the series. Although also at the Battle of the Binary Stars. You see a bunch of ships, and you see proto versions of ships that you'll see later in Star Trek, which is kind of cool. Like the Miranda class in Star Trek 2. You see similar, you see something that looks kind of like a pre-version of that, as a point in the evolution, where it's kind of going in that direction. It looks kind of like that.
I do remember that.
And there's a few other ships that are kind of like that, where you say like, oh, I see, like when, 50 years from now, they're going to kind of look like this, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's neat when all the different Federation ships come zooming in.
And the Discovery design itself is a modified version of a prototype that they came up with. I think it was for the Star Trek 2 TV show, like not the movie, but before they made the motion picture. Gene Roddenberry, what happened with Star Trek is you had the first 3 seasons. It got canceled after the second season, letter writing campaign. They gave it one more season that was problematic. And then they canceled it. NBC canceled it for sure after that. But then it went into reruns and suddenly became very popular. It very quickly became very popular. In the early 70s during reruns. And that's when they decided, okay, we can do the animated series, right? That's one thing they pursued. But the other thing they wanted to do is they wanted to bring Star Trek back, but Leonard Nimoy wasn't going to do it, right? And so they were, I think Shatner was willing to come back because he desperately needed work at that stage.
Was he doing Tech Wars yet?
No,
that was
yet.
later.
That was much later. Yeah. But then they had a new
90s.
Vulcan science officer named, I think Zahn or something. But they had it all scripted out, and I think they were, everything was ready to go. And then they had some different ship designs and stuff. They were going to upgrade the ship, and one of the designs looked kind of like Discovery. But then that ended up not happening, and they repurposed the pilot script from that show, from what would have been that show, into the motion picture.
So do you think they did that on purpose in Discovery then?
I think so. I think they maybe didn't always get it right, but I think they do know the Star Trek canon. They know all the little ins and outs. Like, for example, one thing I didn't even know is, so Burnham has this obsession with Alice in Wonderland, right?
Oh, right.
It's introduced in this episode, and it comes up a lot repeatedly. And what I didn't realize, she talks about how her mom, Amanda Grayson, taught, read it to her and to Spock
and her son.
And in the animated,
she just says her son.
Yeah, and in the animated show, there's an episode where Amanda Grayson's all talking about Alice in Wonderland to Spock and stuff. So
shit.
So they watched everything, and they're pulling stuff out.
Is it the one where Spock goes back in time
and becomes to
talk to young Spock?
Have you seen all the episodes, Jesse, of the animated series?
That's
you're really into the animated
series.
Cool.
That's
hilarious.
The stories, some of the stories are really good, actually. Yeah, because it's basically.
I had no idea you were so into it. Now I got to watch it more.
It's pretty cool. You should watch it because I think we're going to do a podcast on it.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe we'll select some episodes on that. The Spock episode's a great one.
I don't think I've seen a full animated series episode from start to end. I remember bits and pieces of it. But yeah,
they're wild.
They got some cool ones, and they can do cool visual stuff because it's just
the budget's free. Yeah,
free budget.
But I do think that the producers of the show, at least by and large, really they pay attention to sound design. There's in this episode in particular, there's really good sound design, with little hints from TOS and from other eras and stuff.
So why do you think people didn't like the Discovery then? What would you think their issue was with it?
I think
too many little crevasses, nooks and crannies.
I think that anytime you're going to get a new entry into any fandom, to varying degrees, people will initially resist it. The Next Generation was completely lambasted before it was even on the air. Everyone was like, "What the fuck is this?" There's a French captain and he's bald and
a Klingon.
It doesn't make any. They all said the bridge looked like a furniture store, which is not. It's not untrue. Everyone hated it, right? And that happens. I mean, there was no real opportunity for that to happen with Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise because they all flowed one into the other. So there was maybe some resistance, but there was still Star Trek. It was just a continuation.
The French guy turned out to be just super British.
Yeah.
So. Everybody was cool with that.
But like you see with the new Star Wars and with Discovery and with other things, I think there's an initial reticence, which is understandable, and in some cases, by the way, justifiable, because some of it's not going to be pleasing to people.
I should have said crevice.
Crevasse.
Either way is acceptable.
I think crevasse is about ice.
Is that pretentious? Moi.
Ha. Sorry. Moi. Crevasse is about ice. Crevice is about rock.
They took that jinx off of Netflix.
Watery fouls. Yeah, Faulty Towers is now no longer on Netflix, but it is all on my computer, thankfully.
That was our transitional music from talking about. Oh, you had just mentioned some.
You should do some more of that.
And so when they went on the ship, they were talking about. This is a side note. I couldn't gather her name. It sounded like they were saying Ensign Chiefowitz.
Oh, no.
Chiefowitz. Like in chief. Like they're the chief of engineering, but they're Ensign Chiefowitz.
I don't remember that.
I don't recall how to... I know the person you're talking about.
It was like right when they got on the ship after Burnham got off the... Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember how to pronounce that name.
Report to the Battle Bay. I think that's what they said.
Battle Bay. The Battle Bay.
Report to the Battle Bay.
The Botany Bay. Or as Chekhov says it in Star Trek 2, he's like, Botany Bay?
What the fuck?
Botany Bay?
I have no idea.
Damn! Go! We have to get out of here! In Star Trek 2, so...
It's the funniest pronunciation ever.
No, this is the funniest Star Trek Discovery podcast, since we're talking about all these other Star Trek animated series, motion picture.
Botany Bay.
The ship that Khan and his crew were discovered on, frozen in the original series, was called the Botany Bay.
As in, like
the Botany Bay, the Botany Bay was named after
an Australian thing.
It is an Australian thing, and I think there was another famous ship named the Botany Bay, which isn't that the one where there was like a mutiny on something I know there's mutiny on the Botany.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think there might have been a mutiny on the Botany Bay. Maybe it's anyway.
Most Star Trek ships of the original series are named after old sailing ships
or fictional sailing ships,
or fictional. Yes,
but anyway. In Star Trek 2, and this is hugely important to the analysis of the third episode of Star Trek Discovery, context is for kings.
Context.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
No, it's not spelled
Connecting
like
the dots.
In Star Trek 2, when Chekhov beams down to
Super Newton context Super Newton phone.
When he beams down to SETI Alpha 6, or what they think is SETI Alpha 6. They're exploring, they find those cargo containers, and they're looking around, they're like, who is this? What is there? What's this deal here? And then Chekhov is looking at some books or something, and he kind of grabs onto what looks like a seatbelt, basically, that's hanging up there. And then he kind of glances over, and he looks at the buckle, and it says Botany Bay. And in his mind, he's made the connection, even though he wasn't on that episode.
He wasn't on that episode.
He wasn't
on the show yet.
They thought
Khan wouldn't have recognized him.
Oh, they fucked it up.
I never forget a face.
Whoa.
He Chekhov. I'm gonna finish this. Chekhov, because this is very important. This is exceedingly important.
I know.
Chekhov makes the connection to the Botany Bay, and he knows it's Khan and his people. I guess he's smart enough to know that they're in the SETI Alpha system. And so, but instead of saying Botany Bay, he says Botany Bay. Botany. Okay, maybe this is not as important as I initially.
No.
Botany Bay. Go watch it tonight.
So do you think like they just misremembered the name, or is he really actually just saying it?
I think Walter Koenig was doing a funny accent.
Yeah.
Right.
And it
just
didn't work. Botany Bay.
Because he already talks a little bit funny, but he doesn't really speak like Chekhov does. So he's already doing a Chekhov voice. Never mind.
Chekhov. So how about that Captain Lorca? Or should we talk about Tilly first, because we meet her first?
Well,
yeah. How come they have a cadet? She should be a midshipman, by the way. But
a midshipman.
A midshipman.
Wait a second. What?
It's when you're not a commissioned officer, but you're a cadet. It's a cadet. They call it cadet.
Midshipman.
So why is she working on this top secret shit when she's a cadet?
Wait a second. Wait. Let's get back to this midshipman for a second.
Midshipman? Okay, like when you go to the Naval Academy.
How'd you know that?
I just know stuff.
I knew that.
Oh, that's true. You do. You do know some shit like
it was
that.
It's a midshipman.
Cool
Everybody knows that. Everybody of worth.
And usually, even in Star Trek, they have midshipmen.
It's not that you know shit. It's that I don't know shit.
The cadets are for the Army. The Army has cadets.
Okay, so wait. The Federation, Starfleet is like the Navy, right?
Yeah,
mostly.
Yeah,
but it's probably kind of like Air Force-y too, where it's all bureaucratic and stuff too, right?
Oh, no doubt.
Is that the deal with Air Force? That's what I hear. I don't know shit.
Yeah,
I really don't know shit. I just remember Eric's dad was in the Air Force or whatever.
That's right.
All the Navy people I know just talk about the Air Force having like their shiny blue outfits and prancing about.
Yeah, they're a bunch of show-offs.
Isn't that what the Navy? Isn't there tons of musicals from the 40s about Navy guys and white?
The Navy's pretty fancy.
The Navy might be,
but
they got
sensitive about it.
They're not the Air Force.
No, the Navy at least has the
midshipmen.
The midshipmen. Okay, so Jesse, as Jesse was saying, so Tilly, you were saying, Jesse, that Tilly is a cadet, but you're saying that she's supposed to be a midshipman. Well, in either case, why would she be on this?
Anyway, her rank is cadet. It's essentially the same thing. As a side note, you would call her a midshipman in the Navy.
They indicate that she's in some sort of special program for some sort of accelerated program.
Word.
It is weird though. I think it was a miscalculation to make her a cadet or a midshipman as opposed to just a fresh ensign.
Yeah.
I think they were just trying to do something a little different.
Right.
On the other hand, I do think that she is the most at least in my view, the most sort of well-realized version of this that Star Trek's tried to do a few times. They starting with probably Ensign Kim is the first example I think of. You could probably put Bashir kind of into this category, but not really because even though he was young and all sprightly or whatever.
Bashir's got other shit going on though, that makes him kind of makes him like a superhero.
If you're like a cadet, you're probably 19 or 20 or something.
Yeah. But I think that she she could have just been an ensign and it would have been just as effective to have her be the person who is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and nervous and trying to prove themselves and
she's
all that.
Allergic to some kind of bedding, so she has to have the special bed.
Yeah, when they were saying she had special needs at first, I thought they were being dicks because she wouldn't shut up. But actually, quite literally,
no, she's just a weirdo. But nobody could be her roommate. That's
but
why.
She does
stuck Michael Burnham with her.
She does have special needs. So her special needs though are she snores.
She drools a whole lot.
She snores, and so really, I guess her special needs are that she never shuts up because even when she's sleeping, she is always talking, whether she's awake or asleep, she literally never shuts up. So that is her special needs. I thought they were just being a dick though because
it gets to be kind of charming after a while.
Yeah. At first I thought they were just oh, she has special needs because she's a fucking weirdo and nobody.
She's definitely a weirdo.
And so they, and then they were being kind of a dick, right? Putting Burnham with her because they just wanted to fuck with Burnham, right?
Or her.
That actress is from Gaithersburg,
Maryland.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm
cool
all right.
With
that.
I'm fine with that. Lots of my friends are from Gaithersburg.
Sort of local.
So when Michael was being kind of sucky because when Tilly says, "Hey, that's my bed," hey. That's my bed. Michael's really? Seriously? You want your bed? You want your bed?
Yeah,
seriously?
Michael Burnham's a bad person.
It's fuck you. It's yeah, she wants her bed. She was here first. She's been sleeping in this bed. What, you're just going to switch beds every night? It's not unusual.
She could just sleep on a plank.
It's not unusual to get used to one bed
Vulcan
in one position and want to continue to sleep there.
Michael Burnham is a bad person.
It really should be really, Michael, you're putting up a fucking fuss about this. Anyways, yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I think sometimes, some of the stuff I read on Reddit or whatever about Discovery, again, it's subjective. People like what you like, don't like what you don't like. That's all good. I'm the same way. There's stuff I don't like too. But I think that the intention with Michael Burnham is she's supposed to be kind of dickish and obnoxious in some way, and I think people are uncomfortable with that because they're thinking oh no, the protagonist is supposed to be somebody I'm utterly in love with and think is wonderful and want to emulate, like a Captain Picard type or something.
I mean, that made more sense to me though when she was, a Vulcan, like coming off of the ship and like being all shitty about like, this ship is stupid, Giorgio, you're stupid, and you think you're making good analogies, but really your analogies are stupid. That scene where she gets off the ship with Sarek in the last episode, and they're walking around the ship and Giorgio's being all nice and she's like, respect has to be earned, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but I mean, at least in that situation it makes sense because she's like this like socially awkward,
but it is consistent, right? It is consistent of the character that the character does these things. And by the way, in the arc of this episode, you sort of retroactively realize that she was being standoffish with Tilly because she assumed that she was just going to be there for a day or two and then transfer on, and she wasn't trying to make any friends. Well, it is a kind of a backwards thinking, like when you think you're helping somebody by being a dick to them. It's dumb, but people do that.
You said doo-doo.
It happens in the military because you don't want to necessarily make friends with everybody because something bad might happen.
Well,
they get blowed up.
I thought that made sense when she was being standoffish in the sense that she wouldn't shake her hand and she was being all like, quiet and being,
the bed thing
that made sense. I thought the bed thing was just kind of like, I thought that was just kind of, that was different.
Maybe it was too much, but I just kind of took it as, Michael is just kind of,
but
she's not good at this stuff.
Nah, I'll buy that. Sure.
And especially not good at being not in authority. Mm-hmm. I think that's another sort of more subtle undercurrent, and you see it with her and Saru in this episode and later on, where she does well with authority, but she like bristles against like having to not have authority.
She was a commander, right?
I think she was a commander. Yeah.
So the actor who plays Tilly is really good. When she walks in and notices that Michael's there and she has a roommate, she just like smiles, and then like you can tell she's immediately so happy, and it was really good. I thought I was like, I really enjoyed that. You could really sort of feel how she was so excited in this really awkward, crazy way.
Mary Wiseman.
Yeah, Mary Wiseman.
Mary Wiseman. So I thought, and it's another example. I'm always talking about the facial expressions, but she's another one. She's really got a really expressive face. When she's doing her acting thing, and she's just so wonderful, and I think about her.
She's really great. She's fantastic, and she's a character who gets debated a lot, online. A lot of people don't like her.
People don't like her.
And
too non-traditional for people or something.
I don't know. I think, but.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to sort of put up with this thing or not? Like this kind of situation.
However, I think some of the people who love her the most are people who hated her character when she was introduced in this episode, but by 3 or 4 episodes down the line, all of a sudden she's their favorite character. I've noticed that trend a lot. A lot of people just straight up hating her, and then after a few episodes thinking like, okay, she's the bee's knees.
The cat's pajamas. When she was saying, hey, there's something you don't know about me, I'm going to be captain one day, that was just her way of being all like, you don't know something about me, but I have high ambitions. Was she just basically doing that? That
was a Picard style Riker protect me from children kind of exposition.
Yeah,
where
it was weird.
They most of this episode has really good exposition. Like, for example, when the prisoners are getting off the shuttle and they're saying like, wow, not a scratch on this deck.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's a good way to convey that is a new ship. We don't know this ship.
Right.
We don't even know that.
And it's not on the front lines. Why isn't it on the front lines? Oh, we learned because it's a super secret awesome ship.
And Lorca, all the scenes with Lorca, which I know we'll get to, but there's lots of really great character building and world building there. But yeah, the thing with Tilly is they just were not able to find a more elegant way to convey that she's not some like twitchy, weird person. She actually has clear plans and ambitions and has talent. And they show when they go over to the Glen, like she knows what she's doing. Like she doesn't act like some kind of wimpy fool. Like she realizes there's a Klingon hiding in the shadows before anybody else does. She has her weapon up.
Yeah. When I saw that scene a couple times, part of me for a split fraction of a second, I was like thinking, well, maybe when she says I'm going to be captain one day, maybe it's already been decided. Like maybe there's been a discussion and among her parents in Starfleet, and she actually was determined to be captain, and she has to learn how to become captain because it's already in the stars or whatever. But no, it's just her. Yeah, it's just their weird exposition, like letting you know what her aspirations are, and she's just. I did that whistling thing again. Let her know what her.
You're the beaver from Lady in the Tramp.
I wish I could do it on command, but I can't. That character was in Back to the Future 3, I think, as to sing it.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, but no, yeah, it was like you said. It's just
he was on Green Acres, wasn't he? Wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on Green Acres for sure, and he was in the Robin Hood, the sexy fox Robin Hood.
Yes.
Sexy fox.
That guy got around back in the day.
My wife still doesn't understand the. I was like, come on, you were a young girl. You didn't look at that fox dude and think, you want to be plowed by that fox.
Be plowed by that fox.
She didn't grow up with that cartoon, so I guess she didn't have that experience. I definitely had that experience.
What's wrong with her?
I don't know.
That was Hamster Dance. That song.
Yes, it was. The Hamster Dance song is in
that. That song.
And in the animation, this is a great Star Trek podcast. In the animation, there's that great thing because, Disney would reuse their animations. And so the Baloo from, the Baloo animations and stuff from the Jungle Book were like repurposed for that Robin Hood one. Oh. They would just like do a lot of the
the scenes are kind of like smooth.
The vocals completely, the words are completely different. Obviously the context, the characters are different, but they would use the exact same, like they overlay onto each other.
Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, but as you pointed out, Patrick, about Tilly, it was just their weird exposition pointing out her aspirations, essentially.
Yeah.
It was just kind of silly. But whatever. And I guess it was a point where Tilly was supposed to seem strong, even though she's all she's all twitchy, but this is a moment she's supposed to have confidence anyways. So yeah, right. Tilly was on the ship and she saw shit was going down and she was on the away mission.
Helical trauma.
Trauma. She was on the away mission and she was all like, they've never taken me on an away mission before. And Burnham's like, oh, really? And that's a big surprise,
Because you're only a cadet.
So, and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, there's Tilly.
Then there's Stamets.
Stamets, which sounds like spermy stamens.
Yes,
Stamens being the penis of the vegetables.
Yes.
That guy's pretty uptight.
Yes, I have there's no argument with that statement.
None.
100% factual.
Finally,
it's
I
the
win.
Penis of the vegetables.
I won. I didn't lose at this one. I banged on the table though. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Was it a Bloom failure? What the fuck is a Bloom failure?
I think that's related to
something to their
the
astromycology.
Spores, which are the progenitors of panspermia.
Because spores bloom, blooms of fungi.
But yeah, he was like I said before, he's so fussy all the time, right? That's his character. He's really fussy. There was a line he goes like, I became an astromycologist because of awe at the miracle of life.
Yeah,
I know. But he sells the line.
I know, but it's like he might as well say like, I eat French fries because I was hungry, hungry for food to eat. But then he's like, oh, my friend's twisted in a circle. Shit, that sucks.
Well, so real quick on what's important about that scene is another good example of good character and story building, because what we're learning about in that conversation is we're learning a little bit about him, but really we're learning about Lorca, because he's describing Lorca as, from his view, a war criminal, a warmonger, and it's his perspective. It's probably not 100% accurate, but it is important.
Like the conflict between like sort of the science and research part of Starfleet and the warrior part of Starfleet.
Yeah.
And you don't always you've seen that here and there throughout Star Trek, but this is a lot more pronounced because they're actually at war.
And
real.
And while they're on the runabout or whatever they call them, those things. Yeah, no, he's giving description of Lorca's character through a really like sort of natural conversation, but then also before that, I like how just openly standoffish he is with Lorca. Like before they go on the mission, he's like all basically calling Lorca a piece of shit to his face.
Yeah,
in so many
it's
words
like
and Lorca's getting all frustrated.
He's like he's like just ready. Any moment he's just gonna like walk off the ship.
And
that's it, I'm out.
And he knows he can get away with it because they need him, because especially now when the other dude has got helical trauma.
Right.
Or Stamets is the only guy who knows how to do this stuff,
and that's the only time in the episode Lorca is getting like kind of flustered. He's just getting irritable. Like the only time he's like loses his cool a little bit is around that Stamets guy. So Stamets is like, he's the man. He's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like him. And then there's Landry, right? That's her name. Rekha Sharma's character. She was on Battlestar Galactica.
That's right. That's where I remember that name.
Yes, Rekha Sharma.
That's right.
Battlestar Galactica.
She's from Canada.
She's
Yes.
what?
She's from Canada.
Most of them are.
Yeah.
Most of the good ones are.
Most of the good ones are.
The captain is British.
Yes, he is. Jason Isaacs,
Yeah.
Lorca is amazing. He plays Malfoy's dad in the Harry Potter movies.
He's in Dark Crystal.
He's in Dark Crystal. He plays the Emperor in the TV show. He's in that. Isn't he in that Patriot movie with Mel Gibson?
Yeah, he's in Patriot.
Oh, he is, isn't he? Oh, I just
farted. You literally moved 3 inches forward from that fart and just excitement.
I did. That's the second time I think I've farted from excitement during
And the Patriot has
podcast.
Odo in it.
He's
too.
Colonel William Tabington.
Yeah, he plays a British. Jason Isaacs plays an evil British dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Odo's in it.
And then
He's
Odo,
a bit
Rene
younger, though.
Auberginois is in.
Yeah,
Who's also in
is in
Benson,
that- and yeah, he's also in Benson.
Benson.
the show that I would watch when I was sick from school.
Robert Guillaume.
We should do a Benson podcast.
Came on. Oh my god.
I love the episode where there's like a post-apocalyptic thing and like all the people turn to like spaghetti people.
In Benson?
Yeah, there's a Benson where I think there's a gas leak or something. I forget. There's some hallucination. It's the best Star Trek podcast on the internet. Anyway, in that episode of Benson, since we started it, the audience will flip out and go crazy if they don't hear the end of this.
I can't believe I can't remember the theme.
There's an
song.
episode of Benson. Well, it goes like, Benson, hey, I'm Benson.
Hey, it's Benson.
That's not how it goes.
We got Rene Auberginois.
Bourgeois. No, there's an episode of Benson where I think Ben. It's set up like it's set up like It's a Wonderful Life.
One of those.
It's one of those where it's like, what would happen? I don't know.
Oh.
All I know is most of the people turn to weird melted spaghetti people. Most of the people on the planet are dead, except for Benson and the German lady maid or
Something sounds
assistant
vaguely
lady.
familiar about this.
And then they have like
Her name
kids
is like
or something.
Klaus or something.
Yeah, and then there's some joke in there about like playing. They have kids, and there's like time passes. I forget if Benson and the woman have kids, but anyway, there's kids involved.
They're married, yeah.
And then somebody's like, go play with your trains, and the joke is that they're playing with actual trains because since everyone's dead, they can just go. They can go run around playing with trains. I might have that completely misremembered, and if I do, then it's that will be part of the Benson revival when Benson is remade into a gritty New Millennium remake.
Well, that'll suck if you're wrong because then I'll sound like a total moron when I was like, yeah, I think I kind of remember that. Yeah, no, I haven't. I've heard of it. Sounds familiar.
Oh yeah, that's right, Benson.
Are you playing the Benson theme too?
Yeah.
I'm playing it as well.
Oh shit.
Are you guys both playing Benson?
Yeah, Inga Swenson.
YouTube.
Who's this one? She's laughing. Caroline McWilliams.
James Noble.
Who's the young one there? Missy Gold.
Oh, that girl.
Oh yeah, now I remember. This is the hook. Yeah.
Oh,
Missy Gold sounds like a porn star name.
Wait, isn't the dude that plays Neelix on this show? Isn't he on Benson?
Yeah, he might be.
the
I think he might be
Neelix guy.
like as chief of staff or something,
Yeah.
or some side.
They're gonna do the classic end.
He might not be in this season of Benson. This looks like early ass Benson.
Oh, they do it the next round.
Oh, those
it's the
dogs
next
are
round.
chasing him.
Yeah, they are. I thought those were
Oh,
horses.
that's racist.
Oh man.
It is a little bit.
So yeah, so that's Benson.
Was anybody on Star Trek in Benson other than Neelix and Rene Auberginois?
Was Benson ever on Star Trek?
No, Robert Guillaume. I don't believe he was ever on Star Trek.
So yeah, so we were talking about what's her name? She kind of Landry. It seems like she kind of has a thing for Lorca.
Yeah, it's interesting the dynamic because they're clearly very close, and she seems to really respect him. You get the impression that he's semi taking advantage of that, or maybe totally taking advantage of that, because the way he treats her is kind of exactly, he gives her what she needs. In other words, what will motivate her to get the job done, kind of thing. And what I found interesting is we're already set up to know they have this relationship where at the very least she has a great deal of respect for him. He probably has a great deal of respect for her, or at least whatever, thinks she's useful. That might be the way to put it. But when they're taking that shuttle over to the Glen, and Stamets and Burnham are having a conversation where Stamets is just like totally ragging on Lorca. they keep showing Landry just sitting there silently, kind of like looking back and forth, but she's not saying anything.
Right. And
it doesn't look like it's not. You don't get the impression she's like spying or anything. She's just kind of been like, all right, this is the deal. This is what this guy thinks.
Was it a coincidence that like a few of the crew members that were on the Shenzhou were on the Discovery, or is that not a coincidence?
It's only 2, I think, is it?
Yeah, there's the other redheaded.
Yeah, the Helms person.
But she had a different hairstyle, and she had some sort of cybernetic implant.
Those were from injuries from the battle at Binary Stars.
Yeah.
That's the implication.
That's kind of what I figured.
Yeah. And then Saru is first officer, of course.
What about that robot lady? Was she in the Shenzhou?
She wasn't on the Shenzhou.
Oh, okay.
The one with the
blue white face?
Yeah. No. There was another robot. There was like a crazy TV head style robot.
Oh yeah,
person.
TV head. Yeah, that was some weird throwback to like some other time. I don't know what to deal with that was. Stamets, he brushed off some space dust at that one.
Yeah, that
scene.
was cool.
Was that supposed to be mycelial dust or something? Spores.
I think so.
Panspermia or something.
Because there's all these like funny little. You're all like, what's going on here, and these people are all weird, and he's like brushing some weird shit off.
Right.
Of them and,
some super spores. So assigned seats.
Yeah,
yeah, that was funny when Tilly.
They're only assigned seats.
They weren't
Tilly
even
got
sitting.
totally called out for that.
Yeah, she did.
Tilly,
that was pretty awesome.
What a bitch.
Yeah, fucking Tilly. So he's worried about what people think of her. Yeah, they weren't even sitting. How can she think she can get away with that shit?
I know. You gotta stand up in that old school Starfleet.
Well, now everyone's all about the standing desks.
Man, I can't get into that shit.
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
I do have an opinion. My opinion is fuck that shit.
Draw the line at those weird keyboards.
At my office, they just installed adjustable desks, so it's the whole desk can go up and down. It can be the standing desk, or it can be all like super low to the ground if you want to sit, cross-legged style.
That's tight.
It's the whole desk. It's not like the
whole desk.
Oh, it's not.
So
like
it's not one of those contraptions you put on top of your desk.
Like crank it
up.
It has a digital button. You push you push the up button or the down.
Dude, I gotta work on an office. That's tight.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, that's what they do in Star Trek.
They set phasers to kill. I noticed that when they went to the ship, they were like They explicitly said.
Well, there was some kind of creature.
What's her name? Rekha Sharma.
Landry
says Rekha Landry says set phasers to kill. I remember I was asking, do they ever say that? And they said it there.
Mm-hmm.
But there was
because they didn't know there was some shadiness yet. They just knew the people died.
Yeah,
it just shows. I think it was just showing that Landry is an extension of Lorca in terms of being aggressive.
Yeah.
Funny
spacey eyes Lorca.
Yeah.
There was a mention of Jeffrey's tube. They had Jeffrey's tube, which I thought was interesting.
She was all crawling through it all fast.
Yeah,
talking about
there was a mention of the Geneva Convention as well.
Yeah, it was
the second Geneva Convention of 2158 or whatever.
It was 1928 and 2155. I love that when they throw in like the thing from before, but then there's the other one that happened in the future that hasn't happened yet.
That's the Star Trek one.
Yeah, I like that too.
So that was based.
They still had it at Geneva.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they still had it at Geneva for some reason because it worked before, I guess.
Geneva's a nice place. Lake Geneva. It's expensive. I mean, a croissant will cost you €20, but it's a lovely place to be.
So yeah, that was in reference to the fucking...
in Star Trek, it would cost you 20 credits.
Or
20 bars of gold pressed lead.
Or 3 hours of what you love doing or something. I don't know.
Go do something you love for 3 hours and we'll toss you a croissant.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
I'm going to masturbate on a table.
Oh.
For 3 hours.
Oh. So
give me my croissant.
Can I have the croissant early so I can masturbate onto the croissant? Yeah, what if masturbating onto a croissant is the thing you like to do?
Yeah, well, you're in luck if that's what they let you do. I don't know.
But you're going to be hungry afterwards.
So you'll need an extra croissant.
3 croissants.
It's like you know what it is? It's like the rocket fuel equation where you keep needing you need more croissants, but you need to earn more croissants, so you have to jerk off onto more croissants, and it's like it's like a logarithmic problematic thing.
Word, yeah.
Logarithmic problematic.
It's logarithmic.
The only logarithms I know are the ones I take in the bathroom when I
Captain's log.
Number 1,
I'm trying to
I order you to take a number 2.
We're discovering a lot in this Star Trek Discovery.
Discovering a lot about ourselves. Oh, by the way, the other thing is, again, I know we've discussed this ad nauseum about the whole 2 episodes, 3 episodes thing. The show is Star Trek Discovery. This is the Discovery ship. We're introduced to it in the 3rd episode.
Yeah,
I'm totally cool with it in principle. It's just, as it worked out, it's kind of like, okay, finally, the show's starting.
Right. And you don't even get to Clem Fandango until like several episodes in.
That's right. I think it's not until 1 or 2 episodes, right? It's coming up soon. Maybe it's the next episode that you meet Clem.
How many episodes have you seen, Jesse?
I've only seen the first 3.
Oh, so how do you know about Clem Fandango?
Well, he knows he's on the show.
I knew that he was on the show, and I've watched Toast of London several times.
Speaking of jerking off for croissants, Lorca...
With the fortune cookies.
Fortune cookies.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I like that.
Because his family ran a Chinese restaurant. Well, now, they didn't say it was a Chinese restaurant. They didn't
Fortune cookies were invented in America.
Well, yes. Yeah, okay.
I think that's
like...
I think that's the implication. I think that I liked it. I liked the cleverness because you see fortune cookies and you're like, why the fuck is this guy all about the fortune cookies? Then he says it's the family business. And at first, because we're all racist, we think, but he ain't no Chinese.
Right.
But then, because we're intellectuals, we know, fortune cookies were not invented by Chinese. Or at least not, like, in China.
Yeah.
Well, where was pizza invented?
By that time in history, like,
pizza comes from Naples.
Chinese food's going to have, like, just a bunch of, white guys working there.
But real pizza.
But let's...
Real pizza.
People named Lorca.
Was born in America.
No, but like...
What is Lorca? Is that Portuguese? What is it?
That's a good question.
Doesn't matter.
Let's say he was eating some, like, General Tso's chicken.
And he was like one of those little Chinese boxes with the red Chinese symbol.
Yeah, exactly.
Dragon
and
on
he's
it.
like, family business from 100 years ago. Now that's
my
good.
granddaddy is General Cho himself.
Yeah, now that's
General Cho Lorca.
Like, that's going to sort of say they ran a Chinese restaurant from what we know of it, not because we're racist, just because that's the culture we're
separate from the fact that we're racist.
So he's playing.
There's no way I'm going to win that
an
one.
American character. That's why he's not.
It's just kind of.
That's why he's doing an American accent. That's sort of all over the map. Like,
they didn't serve.
He's not being a British guy.
They didn't serve. Well, let's see. What year is this supposed to take place in? 23, 22?
22.
When did Enterprise take place? I forgot. We talked about that before when Enterprise took place.
I wish. Oh no! Oh yeah.
When did First Contact happen?
Enterprise take. Okay, this was just a couple of.
When was First Contact?
2121 was where it starts when there's young Archer.
And then
so then it's like 21
when it was 60 years or something?
I think it is the 2150s, yeah.
That's First Contact?
2150s is Enterprise.
And then 2250s is
Enterprise.
Is like TOS.
2250s is TOS.
So this is like, so he's saying 100 years ago, so about the year 2100 is when Lorca's 2150 or 2100?
No.
When did Lorca's family run a restaurant that wasn't Chinese?
I don't know if that was...
That wasn't Chinese, but it had...
He didn't say they ran a restaurant. He said they made fortune cookies.
Maybe they just had a fortune cookie factory.
They just produced fortune cookies. He said, my family...
Because those
he just said
fortune cookies.
Oh, now that's...
Those are produced in America.
Yeah, he never said... He didn't say he was running a Chinese restaurant.
No, okay, let me... Okay.
They were talking about Chinese food and a different start.
Okay, no. When he said family business... I guess my racist assumption was that that meant the family business was a restaurant because it was fortune cookies. I didn't think, I
don't think that's racist. I think it's just a mistake.
No, I know. I just wanted to get ahead of it in case anyone was like, this guy's being racist.
Just as a caveat, we are all racist because we're the product of an institutionally racist society.
Yeah.
Separate from that, we also are fallible. And can occasionally make mistakes.
We're all Caucasians.
And sometimes the writing is just not good either, and so it doesn't necessarily communicate.
So, anyways, I'm not racist, except for the reasons that I am due to faults other than my own. No, that's not how it works either.
wait, it's not my fault. Ain't my fault. Ain't my fault.
Institutionalized.
Made me this way, so I'm just going to
really
steep me. Anyway.
So my assumption was when he said family business, I was like, oh, restaurant. Must have been a restaurant. What kind of restaurant has fortune cookies? Oh, well, in the year 2100 or 2150 or whenever his family business was, I'm guessing around 2100, I guess that's what happens in restaurants at the year 2100. But we've established now he didn't say anything about restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm wagging my finger.
Yes, Dan is wagging the hell out of that fucking finger.
Go up my butt.
It's all blurry.
And it's all blurry. It's not gonna be blurry when it's going in my butt.
That's called persistence of vision.
Whoa. Is that like the rubber pencil?
Yeah, rubber pencil, waggly finger.
It's like when you see
finger.
trailers.
Yeah, that's also psychedelics.
That's psychedelics.
Yeah.
In a world.
I think one of the key things in
that's
that
so
scene,
lame when they say in a world. They don't say that. Nobody ever says that in a trailer, but that's the joke. That's the joke.
They used to say that.
That
one guy used to say that.
And that one guy
back in the day.
They made a whole movie called In a World where it was about a woman who did the voiceover.
That was kind of a funny movie.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Okay, so
the key thing in that scene.
So okay, wait. So the
today, Junior.
The family business was they made fortune cookies, and that was an American thing. It makes sense. So yeah, it throws you a curveball. I get it now. It makes sense to me.
What I had a bigger problem with. In that scene, and I love that scene because I think Jason Isaacs is amazing. I thought that he and Michael Burnham, Lorca and Michael Burnham interaction, very interesting. All their interactions are really interesting. The dynamic between the two, because he clearly needs her and wants her, and whatever information he has on her, he's like clearly like, this is somebody who I want to be associated with, and so he has to play it a certain way with her because he doesn't want to push her away. She's somehow important for whatever his plans are, right? Whatever his ambitions are. Great scene in that sense. What I found a little bit more disturbing, and this may just be me, so I'm really curious to find out from you guys what you think, is why the fuck did he open the fortune cookies just by squeezing them in his hand like that? And I thought about it. I was originally upset and enraged by that. And then I thought, okay, is it a character thing? Or am I not realizing it? Dan is not opening a fortune cookie. It's just chocolate. I was wondering, is it
the raisin cluster?
Is the way I am opening fortune cookies, am I taking that for granted that that's the correct way? Is there a correct way? Because, to clarify, I open a fortune cookie by pulling the two pieces apart, gently, snapping them in the middle, and then pulling them, and then the fortune usually remains tucked in one side and like pulled out of the other, and then I pull it out, and then I have two halves of cookie that I can proceed to eat. But he was doing something where he was just like crushing it and then like taking the fortune out and then like tossing the shit in his mouth. Is that actually a reasonable way to eat a fortune cookie?
No, it's not, because it's a sugary sort of treat, right? And your hands are going to be slightly moist, even if your hands are dry. The moisture is you're going to get some fortune cookie stuck to your hands.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good
you would
point.
have to lick it off to get all of it off. No, and crumbs would fall off anyway, so it's obviously not the best way to go about it.
If you're a weirdo and you're a kid and you grew up in a fortune cookie factory, and you probably came up with a weird way to eat
you probably got
cookies,
all sort of creative
your
ways.
parents just like let you go wild and they abandoned you there.
Right, so you probably thought of all sorts of creative things. I tried to get it ahead of both of those issues because you get the breaking in half. That's what I do as well. I think that's what everybody does, and that makes only a minimal amount of a mess. But as a kid, I tried to get ahead of that even more, and I thought that I could just put the whole thing in my mouth, chew it up.
That's what my dog does.
And pull out the fortune like out of like a cartoon or something when a piece of paper comes out of their mouth as if it's like a dispensary. I thought I could chew up the fortune
like a stock ticker.
Yeah, exactly, right. The problem is it's not made out of like laminated something. It's not plastic. It's made out of paper. So instead of pulling out a string of something, I got all these little tiny wet chewed up bits of paper like falling out of my mouth.
And now you don't know what numbers to play in the lottery.
Right. Well, I was too young to play the lottery, but it's true, and I never did that again. So the answer is you have to find somewhere in the middle, and
that's
somewhere
bad luck when you're fortune. No, I'm just kidding.
That's when my life
when
sucks.
You eat your fortune.
Anyways, you have to find somewhere in the middle, which is breaking in half, I guess. They really did this weird fortune thing because he came up with that fortune cookie at the end too, where they actually broke it normally like a wishbone. At the end, wishbone. When Lorca and Burnham actually at the end they did another fortune cookie thing. They did two fortune cookie shots. He squeezed it in the first one to show how determined he was, but then he broke it with Burnham to like I think they broke it, but they both did it to like show some togetherness. It was really weird. They were going for some weird imagery there. I don't know if I bought it, but
you weren't buying what they were selling.
In that scene when he showed her the mycelial network, she should have been way more impressed than she was. He took her to Alari, the moons of Andoria, and Romulus.
Oh yeah.
And there's that scene right at the end where it looks like some sort of underground gas refinery or something. That's actually from the original series. You see that? Wait, was that original? I keep getting confused now because there's also the Iconian Gateway in TNG where you see flashes of a few different places.
That's right.
And some people have made some like connections and similarities between the Iconian Gateway and from TNG that's comes up a couple times. And then the mycelial network. But I agree, you would have expected her to be more impressed. I mean, she clearly was impressed by her reaction in the sense that the change in her behavior and the change in her decision to actually stay, clearly she was impressed. Otherwise, why would she have changed her mind and stayed? But the actual reaction, I agree, was somewhat subdued for what she was seeing.
So... Was it, you were saying, do fans like Burnham or not like Burnham, or are they mixed, or does it really matter?
It's mixed.
It's mixed.
A lot of people, I mean, because she's a great actress. I mean, again, I guess that's a debatable point, but I think for the most part, I think
she
she's
was
a really
on
she's a
The
good
Walking Dead, and so was from
Renee Aubergenois.
No. From what's it called? The Orville.
Avery Brooks.
The Orville. The Orville, what's his name? Borax. No, fucking. I can't believe I'm forgetting. That show's been off the air too long. I forgot his name. Bortus. No, that's not.
Bortus is
a few people have
dude who
gone on
lays
to do
eggs.
this
Who's the piece of shit one? That's his husband.
Oh, that's Fred Johnson on The Expanse. That actor is really great.
Yeah, and he was on Walking Dead as well. He is really good.
Yeah, that's right.
And I had no idea when I found it.
He was also on The Wire, I think.
Was
he? May yes.
Yeah, he I think he was probably.
Yes, that's right.
When I found out he was not Bortus's fucking husband. I can't remember the guy's fucking name in the show. Anyways,
it's Chad Coleman is the actor's name, but I don't know I can't remember. Why can't I remember it? Now you made me forget it. I'm blaming you.
It's my fault. I can't believe that we forgot the fucking
Clyden.
I remembered. Shit, motherfucker, Clyden. But anyways, when I found out that was Clyden, I was like, no fucking way. He does such a good job of like playing a totally different alien type dude. And then eventually I was able to see. I was like, okay, I can see it now. But
he's really good on The Expanse too. Chad Coleman's good on everything he does.
Oh, where's God?
The number one Star Trek episode, Star Trek podcast on the internet. We're now talking about The Expanse, and
Benson?
Secretly while we've been working our way through this episode, I've been secretly manipulating things to try to find some way, and I haven't yet, but try to find some way to talk about fried green tomatoes. But we're not going to do that just yet because we're still talking about Star Trek. But I'm just giving everyone a heads up that might come up.
Fried green
towards
tomatoes.
The end of this. I just watched it again last night. It's one of my favorites.
It has what's her name from Weeds in it.
Mary Stuart Masterson or the other one?
I farted again. No, Mary Stuart Masterson. She was on Benny and Joon, wasn't she?
Probably.
No, she was the one who sold weed in Weeds.
No, that's...
She was in Fried fucking Green Tomatoes, man.
No, I believe you there.
Oh, yeah.
But
sorry.
Yeah, I think that's somebody different.
It's not Mary Stuart Masterson. It's someone else.
It was the other one. I know the one you're talking about.
But she plays like this innocent young girl or something. Not young, just like she's probably...
She would have been sort of young.
Young, sort of like innocent kind of person talking about fried green. Okay, well, we got to work fried green tomatoes in here at some point, but I guess...
There you go.
So it was funny when the Klingon shushed them in the ship.
I really liked that.
That was pretty awesome. That was so like weird.
It was again. This show has really wonderful production values.
It worked,
and that was that whole. I think the whole Glenn sequence was really well directed.
Yeah.
It was creepy. It was intense, and they had the literal body horror of the helical.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Trauma.
Yeah,
that was so
the
awesome. Darkness, and then the sounds, and
there was a lot
running around.
A lot of horror movie elements.
But then that Klingon guy coming out was like it threw everything off a little bit in a good way because it was like what the hell is that?
It sounds like a cat.
That was my cat meowing.
Oh, that's Garth.
Garth.
Does Garth get mad at like someone? That sounded like a mad
It sounded
meow.
like a baby.
No, she's just sitting over there by herself.
Well, it's like it was a cat howl, which like I associate with a cat fight. But I believe you when you say
Sometimes
it's not.
cats are just mouthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
My
you.
cat
I mean,
is-
you know your cat. My cat gets mouthy at like 2 a.m.
She's being weird.
My cat like will play with the
Oh, yeah,
spring
yeah,
and just start like
yeah.
making all this noise. She'll go like wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow, like 2 a.m.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like, motherfucker.
Garth will do that as well.
So we were talking. Oh yeah, the Klingon shushes him. It's so bizarre and like jarring, but it works.
And then he just gets yanked away.
I thought you were just shushing me. I was like,
No, we're talking about shushing.
I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then Rekha Sharma, what's her name in the
I think it's Landry.
Landry. She's like, she goes like, did he just shush you?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, and then he gets tackled by the tardigrade, who is like for a giant bug is like surprisingly like moody, yeah, like
or scared,
or not bug. He's like a microscopic.
It's an animal.
Turned big.
Well, I mean, bugs are animals too, but
well, yeah, but I mean,
it's
they're
its
all
own deal.
animals, but yeah,
it's its own deal.
It's like, why is it?
Tardigrades like to shake their thing in their own way.
You wouldn't think they're that agile.
They cause helical trauma.
I don't know. He's got all sorts of wiggly little fingers.
No, they didn't
clicky
cause
finger.
the helical trauma.
Oh, okay. That was the
That was the mycelial
Whatever
drive or
experimental
that was the
stuff.
stuff.
That's
Gone
the implication.
awry.
Yeah, because
Gone
remember
awry.
his friend Stamets' friend was all bragging about how they were going to do some like cool thing that
right.
night, and then like
He's like, "Don't be
that's when they
jealous."
get the call that something terrible has happened.
Right.
Lurker. I like when like
Yeah,
when Burnham comes up and he's like lurker.
There's a lurker.
And he like zips away. He's like, Pew!
And his
he's
face
like,
is all sticking out of the screen.
yeah, it's so weird. His face sticks out.
They didn't do that shit on TOS.
Hell no.
Sometimes they
didn't.
had a fucking teletype machine. Like
Yeah.
in the cage, there was a fucking teletype machine.
Yeah, they didn't.
I like when they had the computer on the TOS. It would be like error, computer, error, computing. I suppose the next thing we should do is as we finish things up.
I bet that breath scanner is fucking gross. That breath scanner?
Yeah,
Like it smells bad.
That's fucking disgusting. That's so, and it's not very secure. Apparently, all you have to do is take someone's spit and blow on their spit,
Yes, yeah.
and you can get into wherever you need to go. That's it's a cool idea, but it's gross.
I agree. It was sort of silly because they were trying to be like like in Captain Marvel or in any other spy thing where they use like the tape for the fingerprint reader or something like
Right.
that. You use some clever thing. That was their version of it. They could have come up with something better, maybe.
I interrupted you. You were about to say we need to talk about.
We need to talk.
Are we gonna have a fucking thing
gonna
right
have
now?
a talk.
We couldn't wait till after the podcast was over.
No.
Well, there was a moment of dead air, so
Yeah, we all this time we barely talked about Saru, even in the last one. I don't know if there's much to talk about, but
He's awesome.
He's pretty cool,
He's pretty
yeah.
bad. So in this episode, he really comes off as like more as a deeper character.
Yeah.
In the first two, he just kind of comes off as this kind of wimpy kind of like when I first was watching the first two episodes for the first time ever in my life. I was like, who is this like wimpy kind of like, stick in the mud kind of loser dude? But like you find out he's totally not a loser. He's pretty awesome. But he still kind of comes off as kind of an asshole, like kind of a like just kind of this snotty like sort of like wimp. He still comes off as like spineless. He still comes
alien.
off he comes off as spineless because like when he's talking to Burnham. And he's like, all of a sudden, he's all plays the high and mighty card on her, and he's all like, you're so great, but then you fucked up, and
You're really dangerous.
You're really dangerous, and you really disappointed everybody. That's what he's basically saying. He goes like, I intend to do a better job protecting my captain than you did yours. It's like, what the fuck? Why did he have to say that to her?
So here's the deal.
And then he's like, well, you're the smartest officer ever.
And well, okay, you're right. He did pull that, which was cool. But at that point in time, it seemed like he was pulling some kind of social and professional rank. He's like, now that I have this professional and social standing, now I can talk down to you. But
Right.
before, I was like a total.
She used to outrank him.
I don't disagree with you. On the other hand, I interpreted it differently. I actually interpreted it as the character showing braveness and confidence that he did not have before. Maybe as a result of gaining, the experience he had, or the result of gaining the rank, or whatever. But he wasn't shy about saying exactly what he thought, which was like, you did a great job. You were really important. It's too bad you fucked up so bad, because honestly, you're otherwise would be a very helpful and awesome Starfleet officer.
Now, Jesse made a good point to what you just said, Patrick, because when he said, she's the smartest motherfucker I know, and Lorca's all like looking at Stamets. Stamets is like, made some snide remark to Stamets, he's like, and you're in the room or something like that. But no, that's true, because I guess if he hadn't said that, to me, what it would have come across as is being like, I can say these things now that I know you can't fuck with me for saying them. You know what I mean? It's like, I got mommy by my side, so now I can say these things. As soon as mommy leaves, I'm gonna back down. You know what I mean? But the fact that he does say like she's super smart does show that he has some, some confidence, and he's not insecure about the fact. He's like, he can tell her what he thinks of her, but he can also be like, but you're also awesome. So that takes, I guess, a lot of like confidence and
it, of course, as much as I want there to be good and cleverly written character development, that's also balanced against the fact that true character development does happen over time. We're only on the third episode, and it is kind of like the first episode, because a lot of these characters, all these characters now that we're going to be with for a while, most of them we just met, and so they have having to introduce those characters as well.
Well, yeah, and actually in the case of Saru, I didn't think of it as bad character development. I didn't think of it as bad writing. It's just how I interpreted his character, actually.
I understand. Yeah,
but the point of him, I guess I'm kind of
he's feeling it out, and of course, I know Jesse hasn't watched past this, but they start to flesh out. They do what I suggested, with the flashbacks and other stuff. Like I suggested last episode, another way they could have gone was start here and then just introduce Burnham's backstory through flashbacks. They kind of do that with Saru in that, they have the interactions they have on this episode, and then a few episodes down the line, you learn more in that Burnham is really like, "What? I don't understand. Like, I thought we were cool," and Saru is kind of like, "Don't you get it?" I really like Captain Giorgio. She was really awesome, and I was looking forward. I was so excited for you to get promoted to captain, and then I would get to be first officer, and then I would get that opportunity that you had. That's why I'm mad at you partly, and that deepens the character. And then of course, even further down the line, more similar things. You learn a little bit more about like why he has the attitudes he has towards things. So, like any show, you learn more over time, and they do a pretty good job with Saru. But it's brilliant acting.
He's all swishy when he walks around. He's all swishy.
And he has his hooves. Did you find his hoof shoes?
Yeah, and he's got those oogie things. I forget what they're called. They kind of gross me out a little bit. Ganglia, that's right. The oogie ganglia. I'm being like a racist for thinking they're gross. It's like, oh, they're so gross. This species has these gross things that's supposed to help it survive. I find it off-putting. No, but
you're just being human.
Excuse me. Your ganglia.
Put your ganglia away.
Are off-putting. You're putting me off.
So when what's the fuck, that ship flies off, right? And his ganglia goes up. I like how he's all kind of embarrassed about it. He keeps like trying to push it and hide it, like so it doesn't like show.
It's like a kid who has a boner in gym class.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That's a boner bummer. Boner bummer.
Those gym shorts are so thin and floopy.
Yeah,
really
they make
soft.
My boners. Yeah. The ship flew away, and he could sense. That's always the weird thing. Like, so I guess the episode before it was all like dramatic because he was like, "I can sense death. Our species was bred to sense death," or something like that, or danger, whatever.
Coming of death.
Yeah, right. So his ganglia, presumably, it went up because the ship went away, which should have like relieved him, but then Burnham stayed behind. Is that what it was saying? Like he could sense that Burnham wasn't, because like when that prison ship flew away, right? Originally Burnham was supposed to be on that, but like I was always confused by that scene because he sees the ship. He's like having like his salt tea or whatever. He's like,
I was like,
weird
why is he
salt.
putting all that salt in?
He's all like pouring it upside down for a few seconds. Like, okay, that's the right time. And so he sees the prison runabout run away, and so it causes his death ganglia to go up.
Maybe his death ganglia went out because of his sodium intake was too high.
Maybe it's his health.
His body was like, this is not good for your fucking kidneys.
Wow, that's a whole other health aspect I didn't think of. So
I agree with you. In fact, I hadn't thought of it until you just mentioned that. But you're right; it's a little weird because is it implying that his ganglia went out because Burnham wasn't on the ship that was leaving, and somehow he sensed that? I think it's kind of like with Counselor Troy, where the empathic abilities and his quote unquote ability to sense death, which we eventually learn is not quite exactly what happens. It's sort of they do what makes sense for the story for dramatic, and that's fine. Except that it's kind of a little inconsistent. Because they don't come out. I mean, they were in the Battle of the Binary Stars, and like his ganglia weren't coming out all the time. They weren't just like dangling out the whole time. They were about to be fucking murdered by Klingons.
Because
dangling ganglias.
I mean, yeah, because I could see if it was more consistent, where it's like, oh, there's something I associate with like bad feelings. It's like if you get goosebumps, right? It's like that. But like it's obvious, like you said, it doesn't.
If it was that, that's not special.
Yeah,
because we get goosebumps too.
Goosebumps.
And the hackles on the back of our neck.
Just call PP51 Doo-Doo.
Mary Louise Parker.
Yeah, that's who that is.
Oh, from Weeds?
Yeah.
No, from Fried Green Tomatoes.
Oh,
she played Ruth. She has the most expressive. So the key thing in Fried Green Tomatoes with the actresses, particularly with Mary Louise Parker, but both of them, is how expressive their faces
Not Mary
are.
Stuart Masterson.
Her as well, but in fact, a lot of the actors in the movie, I wonder if it was a direction in the movie, because their faces are so expressive and wobbly, especially their mouths.
It's been a while, man.
Go get it. I think you can get it on Amazon for a couple bucks. Sure. It's one of the best movies ever made.
I remember enjoying
Secrets in the Sauce. Secrets in the Sauce.
Yeah, I remember enjoying it. Yeah. I remember. I've actually had fried chicken.
And Mary Louise Parker,
good, yeah.
I think, does a really good job in that movie. So there it is, folks. Fried Green Tomatoes. It's got fried green tomatoes.
Starring Benson.
Not starring Robert Guillaume, but we're going to do a whole series where we discuss what Fried Green Tomatoes would have been like if Robert Guillaume played a character in the movie. And each episode we will go through the movie of Fried Green Tomatoes as if Robert Guillaume was a different character. So like in the first episode, he would be playing Mary Louise Parker's character. And then in the next episode of the podcast, we'd reset it all, but like do the movie as if he was playing the mom of Mary Stuart Masterson, the old lady mom.
What about that guy who lived in the basement and Too Close for Comfort? Was he Ralph or Jar Jar Binks? Robert Guillaume was on that. And Soap? Are you talking about Soap? Oh no, in Too Close for Comfort. I was thinking Soap.
Monroe. You're talking about Monroe.
Yeah, Monroe.
Oh, Monroe. Yeah.
Jim J. Bullock.
Yeah, Jim J. Bullock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too Close for Comfort was an interesting show. I watched the hell out of that growing up.
I did too.
Yeah.
He was like a comic book writer or something.
He wrote cartoons. Yeah, drew cartoons.
Cartoon strip.
And he had that little puppet.
He drew with that cow on his head. Ted Knight.
Ted Knight. If you want to get some,
other shows.
Okay, so quick non-Star Trek recommendation. If you want to get some Too Close for Comfort nostalgia without watching Too Close for Comfort,
because we all do.
There's an episode, one of the episodes of the greatest event in television history. Focuses on Too Close for Comfort with Adam Scott and
Get the Shot.
Yeah, it's
Adam Scott. Get the Shot.
Yeah, Adam Scott's
Adam
in it.
Get the Shot. Scott.
I think Jason Mantzoukas is in that one.
Jason Bazooka.
Yeah, there's a bunch of. It's a great
Jason
one.
Bazooka.
It's where a bunch of actors, Adam Scott and a bunch of other actors, get together. Jason Mantzoukas is directing to recreate.
Are you talking about a podcast? Because there was one where they talked about Drop Dead Fred.
No, that's that movie. That's How Did This Get Made? They probably did Drop Dead Fred. That's a good podcast. How did this made? No, the greatest event in television history is a series of 15-minute shows. I think they were on Adult Swim, but they're all on YouTube, and it's where they all have Adam Scott in it and a variety, and each one has a different other characters. Actors, all the actors are playing themselves, and each one just focuses on identically recreating the intros to TV shows from the 70s and 80s.
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of something else.
And they spend.
What's the one that's like Too Many Cooks?
That's a different one, and that's also
totally
good. That one's called Too
different.
Many Cooks.
Yeah, not the same.
That's just
made up.
Yeah,
goes on for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's got a Star Trek element too. Sort of.
So wait, okay, were you finished saying what you were saying? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Fried green tomatoes.
How did that? Jesse, do you know how this has anything to do with Star Trek?
It doesn't.
No,
I just said Mary Louise Parker.
Yeah.
I just remembered that her name was Mary Louise Parker.
But earlier,
so I shouted it out.
30 minutes ago, you were like, I'm going to talk about fried green tomatoes later.
I was giving everyone a fucking heads up.
But why were you trying to work it in? It had nothing to do with Star Trek.
Because it's on my fucking mind, because I watched it last night. Okay, it's a great movie.
At least Benson had Odo in it.
And Neil.
I mean, I'm not judging you. I'm not mad at you.
I think you're judging me a little bit.
No.
It's okay.
I just want to know how you got from A to B.
I like the movie. It's magical. You cry. There's parts where you cry. The secrets in the sauce is pretty great.
And there's some good, like, sort of like love between women, like, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is a.
I've never seen this.
It is
movie.
a pro LGBT movie for sure.
Well, I didn't
1991. No,
Okay.
it is straight up. Like, it is straight up. The subtext is right up there in your face.
Right up there.
Right up there. Right up there. And for 1991, it's pretty overt. And I think that's one of the cool things about it. So go check it out. Fried Green Tomatoes. It is a great movie. It's got all sorts of cool people in it. You don't want to miss it. It's got Kathy Bates.
Yep.
Right? It's got Mary Stuart Masterson. It's got Mary Louise Parker. Jessica Tandy plays the old lady.
Not too shabby.
Yeah. Cicely Tyson is in there. Chris O'Donnell? Are you kidding? Robin himself? He's in there, but he's all young. He's much younger.
Chris O'Donnell. Jesus.
Robin himself.
Robin in the flesh. Anyway.
The Robin.
So
Star Trek Discovery, that's a pretty good show too.
It's not bad. There was a mistake.
I enjoyed it, yes.
There was a mistake in line 937. That's what Burnham found when she found Stamets. He had her look at some code.
Oh,
and she was like, there's a mistake in this line. I actually wrote down the whole thing. I won't repeat it because it doesn't make any sense. But there's a lot of
code. What did you think about that?
Handle STD call.
Did
get
you
current
like
process D word A1+4 int STD call void car?
Did you like
char.
that they were
Is
showing
it car
code?
Or char? I always wondered. I always say char, but some people say car.
I say like care for character.
That's another one, right?
I don't know if that's right or not.
I don't know.
In my mind, I say that.
I know that char.
C-H-A-R.
I know that char is not correct, but I like saying char because it's more fun.
Do you like
say.
Swiss chard?
Oh God, I never know how you're. It's chard. Isn't it chard?
Swiss chard.
I don't know if I've ever had Swiss chard, but I kind of want to try it.
Yeah, you give it a try, man. You dig it the most.
Signed
I might dig that.
A D word. Okay.
Did you like the use of realistic looking code?
Yeah,
because it makes sense, right?
I did. I appreciated. I appreciated that. Yeah, it's nice when they put in a little extra effort.
Like in TNG, often the quote unquote computer code would be some like squiggly lines.
Yeah,
just
I think part
of
it. Some of it was actually just like the names of the cast, but most of it was squiggly lines. Like the shit you couldn't read was names of the cast, but if you were close enough to be able to tell what it said, it was just nonsense. No, yeah, it actually looked like actual stuff. It's nice when they put effort into something that is seemingly like small, the devil's in the details.
Yeah, like my penis.
Yeah, like your fucking penis.
Put some effort into it. So small.
Excuse me, it's too small.
It's a Star Trek of today.
It's stuff that's seemingly unimportant. It's nice when they put a little more effort into it. Like most shows, when they're playing musical instruments, they never seem to get the jibe right. Like when they're playing a trumpet or a guitar, they never get the
timings. The fingering and the timing.
Even on Star Trek, all the TNG stuff with people playing instruments.
Yeah,
it wasn't always like.
I usually Riker did well because he actually plays the trombone.
Oh, does he actually play the Jonathan Frakes play?
Yeah, Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was just because it's easy to emulate the trombone.
It's just easy to go. Wow.
I don't think so. Because think about it. Because you're a trombone player, and think about it. If and I'm sure you've seen this, because the slide position is so important that you think that you might have to be a player to catch the wrongness, but you would catch it if you were a player.
You could totally catch if somebody was in between position 2 and 3.
Yeah.
You could totally see like that's not
That's not position
Their
3.
fingers don't rest on the bell. Their thumb can't rest on the next to the mouthpiece. That is neither 2 nor 3. It's in between somewhere.
Could you would you be able to tell? Would it take you completely out of the sci-fi movie if their like embouchure was like bad? If it was like
it depends.
If they had like floppy lips instead of like nice pert.
When their cheeks puff out, you're not supposed to puff your cheeks when you play.
There's a part in TNG where
I was never clear on what tubas do.
Data's playing in a string quartet.
Yeah.
And they're all like, okay, Data's going to be playing the string quartet. It's an all Mozart program. And they're totally playing a Brahms sextet.
Yeah, come on.
A Brahms string sextet, not a quartet.
Yeah, there's nothing that you could confuse Brahms with Mozart at all.
I was
it does make me think of something that does come up on Discovery. It's not in this episode, but Discovery, there's a point where they're playing some music and it's sort of semi-contemporary to now, and because they're having like a dance party or something, and so you hear some music. And I remember a lot of people getting all pissed off at that, and then a lot of other people pointing out like, why the hell wouldn't they be listening? Why does everyone in TNG only listen to classical music? Yeah. You know why? Because it was fucking public domain, and and Paramount already had the rights to the recordings because they own this. And also I'm sure they wanted to have a certain erudite thing. But come on, honestly, it's like there are going to be music from now that will survive to that.
Oh yeah, my dad's in a Beatles cover band.
Yeah,
I think he's
John Lennon. Right?
I don't follow it.
Blackbird.
So we should wrap up.
Okay.
We've discussed Landry and Stamets and Burnham and Saru and Tilly and Lorca. We got through about half of the fried green tomato stuff I wanted to talk about.
That was planned.
You farted and propelled forward about 3 inches. And you were all excited.
I was so tickled that I farted.
You were very tickled by some revelation.
And then you were tickled again.
I can't remember.
So as we wrap up, what are some of your favorite things? What are some of the things that were that weren't so great that stood out to you?
Vulcan martial arts. Sus Mana or some shit. I don't know.
Krav McVulcan.
Krav McVulcan. Right. Yeah. So, Landry, she was
Vulcan should stick to logic.
Yeah. Why'd she say that? Michael Burnham beat up like 4 dudes, like with Vulcan martial arts, and she's
Landry,
like, "You should stick to logic." What the fuck does that even mean? That's if you're gonna fuck with someone, like at least have it like that scene in King of the Hill when Peggy and that other mom they're watching someone play like. Football,
the soccer,
soccer, football, and the other mom's like, "You suck," and Peggy's like, "You got to say something specific," and she's like, "Your play calling sucks." She's like, "That's better," it's got to have something to do with what happened. So, like, what is that? I would bet Vulcans are amazing at martial arts. They can knock you out with a fucking pinch. So what the?
That's a good point because I guess they were trying to set up some sort of level of antagonism between Landry, but it didn't. You're right. It didn't make because Landry's already been set up as she's clearly one of those people, kind of like Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, and Worf on TNG. Security people, by almost definition, they're aggressive and they tend to be the people who assume the worst and all that.
Or Yar, she was pretty.
Yar was like that. She was very and they're like really into things like fighting. You would think that Landry's reaction to seeing some cool Vulcan martial arts would be like, "Whoa, cool! Can you show me how to do that?"
Or at least not say something dumb.
Yeah.
And that dude that swung at her and she dodged, even if she hadn't dodged, watch that dude swinging at her. Even if she hadn't dodged that punch, it wouldn't have hit her. It wouldn't have hit her. You can tell. You can tell by the velocity.
It wasn't a real punch.
It wasn't real. No, it was cool, but like it didn't really. It was cool they did a close up of it. It's just I sound like an asshole now. That's not what I meant. It was a cool fight. I thought it was a cool little fight scene. I liked it. What do black badges? Does that mean they're secret?
Okay.
Are you a secret man if you have a black badge?
My note in the notes.
Maybe I said
the black badges are no.
We don't need no.
On Discovery, they have black Starfleet badges, or at least some of the people do.
Uh-huh.
And in my notes, I say black badges are cool, KEWL, but dumb. Right? They do look cool.
Right.
They look all like weird and stuff. If you have a clandestine super research operation, you're not going to advertise that shit. like when the prisoners come on board, it's like, you ever see black badges before? It's like, no, they haven't, because it's some crazy secret shit. And like, are you guys going to get murdered at the end of this episode? Like, what's going on here?
Right. Yeah. You don't want. If you're super cool and secret, you don't want something awesome to, like that's super rad to draw attention.
And you never see them later in the series. They clearly like figured out that didn't make any sense. So
maybe that's what it was.
They stopped that.
They're like, wait a minute. Everyone says looking at us for some reason was black badges.
But they did look cool. It was just like if they were the Section 31 badges or something, where some people thought at the beginning, because if you look at the Discovery's registry number is 1031. Mm-hmm. So people said, okay, maybe it's a Section 31 ship, mm-hmm. and so if the badges were all like, this is just what Section 31, but at least in this episode, that certainly doesn't seem to be the case, and then we don't see them later. So,
I read they were going to do a show with Michelle Yeoh.
That's the plan. They want to do something like that.
They already got something in the works.
They got something in the works. They're going to start doing it like next year or something.
All right. So we talked about, it was silly that she was the first mutineer, but I guess that was just done to make it seem like, oh, you spoiled our record of non-mutineering people. There was Sru offers her those blueberries, and that was an awkward line, a weird sort of like, what was the point, where she's like, ones in prison don't taste the same, It seems like it was supposed to be a point to that line,
apparently,
but there wasn't. Like,
apparently it's sort of an inside joke.
Okay.
That we couldn't possibly yes and no, because we can, as an audience, if it confuses us, then it's not.
Well, it just means I'm not hardcore enough, right?
No. It's because there's inside joke, which is like, you've seen all Star Trek, so you get the reference, and then there's a behind the scenes inside joke that you wouldn't know unless you read all the interviews.
It's inside.
Apparently, the blueberry stuff was because Brian Blueberry, because Brian Fuller,
is that Fishman,
who was. No, Brian Fuller was briefly the creator producer of the show before he got kicked off. Well, he went off to go do American Gods, right? Okay. And then he left that show too. He leaves shows a lot. Anyway, apparently he has a habit, or at least had a habit on the Discovery set, of just wandering around with like a bowl of blueberries, just offering them to all the actors and crew and stuff like that. He was just always giving people blueberries.
Why not strawberries?
Well, yeah, I mean, or raspberries.
Or boysenberries.
At least they weren't blackberries and get the seed stuck in your
huckleberries.
Huckleberries are all right.
Huckleberry at you.
I prefer wineberries. But wineberries,
I hate wineberries.
Sorry. What about gooseberries?
Goose your berry.
Wineberries you can't get in the store because they're like raspberries, but they're juicier, so they disintegrate too easy.
Why do they do that?
Well, it's because of the cellular structure.
And I heard a bunch of college kids were actually dying because they kept putting them up their butt.
Oh no!
Because they were wineberries, so they thought they were trying to get drunk faster.
By the way, I have a lot of experience with wineberries.
Up your butt?
I only have a limited experience with butts, but a lot of experience with wineberries. But combining the two experiences, like, you can't really easily shove that's a problem. You could shove a blackberry right up your butt, but a wineberry just disintegrates. Because so a wineberry
plays to your point.
Is a compound berry, just like raspberries and blackberries.
Raspberries.
But you know how like blackberries are all like super tough, and raspberries are sort of like in the middle. Wineberries are like on the other end, where they're super floopy doopy, and they burst into flavor in your mouth. So you have to pick them off the bush. You have to go into the park.
Gushers of fruit.
Are they red or are they black?
They're both red and black. And so you go in the park, you go right down here behind my house, you go down in the park.
Behind D?
In usually around July-ish or so. They come out after the honeysuckles.
Suck your
but you got to get at them before the birds and stuff get at them. So you got to go out there every day and check, find some wineberries.
Snakes leave that.
You can pick a whole bushel full and nibble on them, but they're just not going to last.
Do they explode once the surface is pierced, or do they just kind of fall apart? Like,
they just fall apart. They're just super juicy. It's like a raspberry, but even juicier. Even juicier. So they like kind of like vaporize when you put them in your mouth. You could totally make a pie.
That totally bums Jesse out.
You could take you could make a wineberry pie. It would be great if they served it down at the Whistle Stop Cafe, where they serve the best goddamn fried green tomatoes in Alabama.
You motherfucker. Fuck you, man. Hey,
secrets in the South.
You know what we learned about today, real quick?
Just as all lunch.
Raspberry. raspberry.
This is a one. We watched one episode of Star Trek, and this podcast is going on for fucking ever. It's the longest fucking podcast we've ever done.
Because we're lunches.
This is really good. It's a really good podcast.
So I learned about chess pies today. Have you either of you ever heard about chess pies?
Is that the one where
sir.
what is that the one where it's like all different?
No, their claim to fame is they're sweeter than pecan pies. They're more sugar. There's more sugar in them than there's a pecan pie.
It's like a goo.
It's goo pie.
Yeah.
Pecan pies.
Is it like ground up?
before.
Is it ground up pecans?
No. They don't. So pecan pies are widely known as the sugariest, most ridiculous pies that are delicious.
It's like a molasses sort of.
But it's
goo.
even more sugary because they don't even do. They do away with the nuts altogether, and it's like sugar and cornmeal. I think basically
It's good.
It's like
I bet it's good. Bet it's good. So we were talking about blueberries. Okay, so that doesn't explain though why she gave that awkward line. I guess they were just had to throw a line in to follow up with him, like offering her
Remind
a
you
blueberry.
she was in prison, maybe?
Yeah, this is one of those yeah. So okay, I thought there was supposed to be some kind of philosophical point about things being different depending on where you are. It's like, oh, food is different.
I think they were just trying to remind you she was in prison,
And they were doing
being like you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, and they wanted to include the inside offering blueberries. It just came together awkwardly. Can accommodate over 300 discrete scientific missions, right? The Discovery, that's what Saru said. Did he mean simultaneously or before refueling?
What?
I think he just meant
when he goes, she's like, this Discovery's the shit. He's like, yeah, it is. It can accommodate over 300 discrete scientific missions. And she's like, oh shit, everyone's going
it just
somewhere.
means simultaneously they have enough like little computer bays and little pods and little doohickeys. You know, like at the space station, they can only they have a certain amount of little units and stuff and a certain amount of equipment, so they can do a certain amount of science up there.
I wonder how many certain amount of science can be done. I wonder how many they can do before refueling. It's probably
How much are they doing on like the NCC 1701D?
That's a good question.
Like they must be doing like 1,200 different
sciences.
Sciences.
Well, maybe. Although the Discovery is like a real, like at least in theory, a science ship.
That's a science, yeah.
Whereas like the Enterprise, the Constitution class is like more hybrid. It's also supposed to be more.
Well, the original
it's science,
one was more like a
exploratory.
cruiser. And then, like the Galaxy class is more like an exploratory, sort of.
Although with the 5-year missions,
with a bunch of weapons,
they were still supposed to like go out and like. But I bet a lot of that was like I don't know.
Couple more things.
They got some weapons on that Mamma Jamma. Like,
yeah, they do.
You could tear some shit up with a Galaxy class.
Fuck yeah, man.
Starship, man.
When they were on the Glen and that tardigrade was attacking, and then Michael Burnham was like, I want to shoot this fucker. And they were like, mutineers don't get phasers. Except when they provide a vague intention.
She was like, I want to piss him off.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, well, here, have 10 phasers. And then when they flew away after she did that weird, like, jumping into the ship that reminded me of, like, Star Wars.
Oh, the hero jump?
Yeah, the hero jump.
The jump by it was fine, but the landing was dumb.
Yeah, the landing was terrible. Yeah, because it was like Neo or something.
It was too here. It was like, they call that like the hero landing.
I didn't know that.
And because you see it in all the comic book movies and stuff. And the thing is even in Marvel movies, by that time, they had started, pulling back a little bit.
Yeah, that was too smooth a landing.
It's cliched,
But it was cool when they actually like flew out of the shield and they like flew the shot when you see the spaceship fly off into space.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. That reminded me of like Star Wars or something. And then they did a cool shot where they were like zoomed way out and they zoomed into the ship and they zoomed. It was something weird and off about the zoom in. Like right after the ship flies away, then they go to the Discovery.
Oh, when it zooms into the bridge.
Yes, and it zooms into Michael Burnham.
Right. She's like right there.
Right there. It's something about it. It's
it was like sort of hazy.
Yeah.
Looking. Yeah, it was weird.
It was really weird, but it was cool.
Looked like it was from like the movie Dune or something.
It was awesome. I was into that in a big way.
I think they really used in Discovery that what they used a really good effect is they do a lot of good like far away shots where like the ship looks all tiny.
Yeah, I love that.
You see like an even tinier like shuttle pod going towards it or something along those lines.
It gives a really good sense of scale, and then they also try to do the multi-dimensional thing. Jesse is tripping. What's he? Climbing over couches over there.
Drinking out of cups.
Almost done. Let's see. I'm almost done with what I need to... Notes I have to say. Lorca has a tribble for some reason.
Well, by the way, in the end, there's I think you see a dissected tribble.
Oh, because there's that room with... Okay, there was a bunch of weird things. There was things like that looked like two animals that were dead having sex or something. But then was there a dissected tribble off in the distance or something?
I think it's worth doing a freeze frame of that room because there's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, there was.
There's first of all there's tons of weapons.
It was like a depressing version of like Phlox's like.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. That's a really good comparison, actually. But in the background, you see that he's got a ton of weapons, like on the shelves and stuff like that. And then, of course, you see the creatures and things. I think you can see a dissected tribble somewhere in there. And then, of course, I really like the final shot of the show. That whole like little sequence at the end is really cool because it sort of adds to the mystery because you kind of think the story is over and then it brings back, you're like, oh yeah, what about that? You see them destroy the Glen and you're not really thinking of the tardigrade. And then you see that they brought, Landry brought it over.
Yeah, we're like, okay, there's some things I'm not clear about the tardigrade. Like, was that just on the Glen?
So
part of their experience.
In the next episode, you're going to find out more. Okay. And the next episode, I think, really is a really good one because you're going to just learn more about what the hell happened on the Glen. And like what the deal with the fucking tardigrade and why did Lorca want to bring it over?
There really was no true pilot to the show because it all.
I think it's a fair point.
That's why it disrupted our podcast so much.
Yeah. Fucked our shit up.
That's why we went off on all sorts of tangents.
There's this one part where Lorca at the end is looking at Burnham. She's looking at like off camera towards the camera but a little off, and you see the back of his head and the side of his jaw. And he's like commending her for her, like how she was actually pointing out, it's like, yeah, what you did with the Klingons back when Captain Endoshenjo was tight. He goes, your assumption that the Klingons were waiting in ambush at the binary stars was predictive. If you look at that, you can tell that was overdubbed. I mean, things often are, but like you can really tell because his jaw's just like all moving.
Yeah, he's all like, blah, 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 blah,
yeah. Yeah, so there's that, and Stammet sounds like semen and stamen. Stamen is.
Did you say that like 5
broccoli,
times already?
Broccoli cock.
Okay. So wait. All right. You're just referencing what you were talking about before with the semen and the stamen.
I was just having a little fun with that one.
The semen and the stamen and the broccoli cock.
The semen and the stamen and the broccoli cock. The semen and the stamen and the broccoli cock. The semen and the stamen and the broccoli cock.
Eat your vegetables
with ranch dressing
or the wild mustard.
It's a Jessica Tandigent.
Wild
mustard.
All right, so have we discussed everything we need to discuss yet?
Well, I mean, Jesse, what were you talking about? Wild mustard?
Wild mustard.
Well, that's the plant where a bunch of vegetables are come
yes,
from.
He's correct. Broccoli and
broccoli and various cabbages and
all the cabbages, kale,
because broccoli comes from cabbage.
I want some cabbage.
Kale comes from that.
I want some cabbage mustard.
All of the green leafy vegetables, pretty much.
Everything that you eat comes from
pretty much
wild mustard plant.
I want cabbaged mustard. Cabbaged mustard, please. I'd like a side of cabbaged mustard.
Wait, are you saying everything comes from mustard?
No.
Not carrots or cucumbers.
Those are root vegetables.
Just those two. Everything else comes from the. No, but
cucumbers aren't root vegetables.
Look it up.
No,
look it up.
It's a fruit.
Jesse's fact is a cool fact. I remember looking on the Wikipedia page about this.
Oh, it shows you the plants.
Having my mind blown about how many plants come from this one plant. They were all cultivated.
Like
from
most
this
of
one plant.
the vegetables that you think of that are proper vegetables.
None of them are natural.
Not fruits, but they're all just.
None of them are natural.
They're all engineered things
from the mustard plant
from like thousands of years.
Everything is mustard?
No, it's just from this mustard plant.
It's just called a wild mustard plant.
Wild mustard.
Well,
plant.
There's wild mustard greens.
Yeah, mustard greens come from that plant.
Yep.
All of the greens
cauliflower
come from that plant. Yeah, cauliflower.
Broccoli.
Cauliflower's mustard?
It's from the wild mustard plant. It's not mustard.
But I mean, that's what mustard's made from.
No.
Oh. But they're related. They have something to do with each other.
I don't know.
Well, they're called mustard.
Doesn't everything?
I guess.
All right. So I think we are very close to having concluded this business.
I started getting loopy like as this podcast went on. I began like all like reserved, and I just started getting a little loopy.
Got a little loopy. Well, that's it.
I was getting lunchy.
Getting into the
call it loopy and lunchy.
Getting into the thrall.
I was getting
the
wasted.
thrall of Star Trek will do that to you.
Oh shit! You might
It
never come
affects
back.
your
So-
mind.
So if I'm loopy, Jesse's lunchy. Lunch. What did you say you were, Jesse?
I think I said lunchy, and I said I was
I'm loopy
wasted.
and he's lunchy.
You were wasted.
Yeah.
Wasted. Wait, what were you, Patrick?
I'm racist.
Oh fuck!
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
not you too.
Not
I
you.
know. I mean, what are you gonna do? You know.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Nothing.
No, you know, you try.
Everybody.
Yeah. I mean, what you can do is you can watch Benson and sincerely enjoy it.
And the Fresh Prince.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Fresh Prince is better than Benson.
Yeah.
The first Viv left because of because of Will Smith was being an asshole. Maybe that's only part of it.
Probably.
Maybe that's only like a sort of tertiary thing. But I heard that Will Smith was kind of, I forget the actor's
I don't
name who
know.
played the first Aunt Viv, because they switched it. And I heard that there's bad blood between first Aunt Viv and Will Smith. I feel like an asshole that I remember his name, not hers, but I blame everyone but myself.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yeah.
Will Smith doesn't necessarily seem like he's a great guy.
I mean,
I don't know.
We'll invite him onto the podcast and we'll see.
Maybe next week we get him
Will
on
Smith,
there.
we're calling you out,
Because
motherfucker.
I think he's an expert on the animated series of Star Trek.
What we could do, yeah. So that's a good point. We don't know what we're going to do next week. Maybe we'll do animated series. We should do something.
Well, I guess we'll have to think about if we want to talk about certain episodes or
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I don't know.
I think we should do something animated series.
complicated.
I'm down to clown.
We should all watch the entirety of the animated series
Well,
and discuss
I mean,
all the episodes.
like they're not super long.
They're not that long. The second season is short too.
And
It's
Like your prolapsed anus.
It's not like a. I don't have a prolapsed anus.
I thought we were just say I don't have a long prolapse. my prolapsed anus is of regular length.
Oh man, good for you.
Regular length.
Well, you're one of the lucky ones.
Damn right.
Damn right. That was a
Damn
terrible
right.
one. Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so it's got Star
So
Trek.
buttons.
It's got Star Trek.
It's got fried green
episode
tomatoes.
7.
It's got Benson.
It's got Benson. It's got fried green tomatoes. The secret is
got the
in the
cube.
sauce.
It's got Benny and June.
Benny
yeah,
and
we did
Joon.
briefly mention
Nothing.
that.
Watch the movie Nothing or don't. I mean,
Watch
it's
the movie
fine.
Or don't
Nothing.
want. Don't. It's just nothing.
There's nothing that you need to worry about.
It's nothing.
Mary Louise Parker has a very expressive face.
Yeah.
And or did at one point in time. I cannot vouch for the 1991.
In
What else did we do?
1991.
We did Adam Scott. Check out something by Adam Scott.
Yes, the greatest event in television history.
What were you saying? Adam, get the shot, Scott.
Get the shot, Scott.
We briefly talked about Star Trek Discovery episode
yeah, it's certain
3.
points.
That's
That's
cool,
like bonus
man.
material. We discussed Discovery.
We can highly recommend watching Star Trek Discovery episode 4, in which some of the mysteries that were introduced in this episode are resolved or continued. So there's that. And keep watching until Clem Fandango comes on, because he's an interesting guy. He's a pretty good character. Shazid Latif. All sorts of interesting stuff going. So at least in terms
Maybe
of
we
Star
just
Trek,
take our clothes off and just have a normal podcast, except we're all naked and we can see how it changes.
and we
We'll
won't
see
tell anybody.
How
Won't
it
tell anyone.
changes.
I'm distracted by his massive
Especially
cock.
as the winter goes on.
Oh yes,
Then we'll know the truth about the length of your prolapsed anus.
yes. Does a prolapsed anus
Have a length?
No, but does it have the same
Sure, I don't know.
size sensitivity to the cold as a regular human penis? In other words, is there shrinkage? Like if it's cold, does your
I thought you were
prolapsed
talking about
anus-
like if you poured hot sauce on it or something.
What the fuck is wrong with you, man? That's fucked up, man. That's bad news.
I mean, like, you know, like
that's bad news.
like muscles and stuff. Sometimes if it's cold, you feel kind of. You know.
I don't know.
Well, you would hope it would shrink. Something could make it shrink.
Well, you'd
Otherwise
hope
your butthole's hanging out. All
I guess
day.
in theory, you'd hope you wouldn't be in that situation long enough to determine whether or not the temperature would have an effect. You would have that resolved, theoretically.
One way or the other.
Someone has figured this out, though.
Well, all right. So that's what we'll do. Next week, we'll probably be talking about animated Star Trek, Star Trek the Animated Series.
Perhaps a prolapsed anus.
We will
But
give each other prolapsed anuses
we're
over
gonna
the
look up
course
all
of the
the-
podcast.
We'll see how quickly we can give each other a prolapsed anus.
We're going to look all this stuff up, and we're going to run some
That's
experiments.
Gonna be hard.
And we will report back
will it?
to the massively growing listener audience. I mean,
by now, it's got to be like at least
tens of thousands,
at least
possibly 100,000 people are listening, which is understandable. We got to get those numbers up, of course, because that's pathetic. Anyway, it's that's it. That's it. That's the end.
That's it.
It's got Star Trek.
That's it.
Go to itsgotstartrek.com. We'll be back next week with more stuff. We'll try to minimize the whole prolapsed anus stuff, but we will report back on what we did find out. So
more Star Trek next week.
More Star Trek next week.
Something anary anus p.
Why aren't their bodies braided up?
Because they didn't die in the initial accident. They probably boarded after spying a crippled Federation ship with no life signs. They beamed on to steal our tech.
What the hell could do this to a dozen fully armed Klingons?
Over here. This hull is double reinforced. What could tear through this metal?
You in the shadows. Show yourself.
Is he shushing you?